Not actually muted, chat. Not actually muted. I was just miming, pretending to speak. No one actually talks like this. No one. All right. Too loud. Too loud. Okay. You turn up the volume because I... You know, it would be interesting to do is a silent stream one day. You know, my favorite... So I've given a couple of really good lectures in my life. probably TBH, the trauma lecture I gave 2 weeks ago, I think is honestly one of my best lectures in my life that I've given. The other lecture I'm really proud of is one day I was teaching yoga, and I couldn't speak. I lost my voice. So I had to give a lecture about the mind and the body and stuff like that, but I couldn't talk at all. So we did a lecture entirely silently, but it worked out great. It was like fantastic. One of my favorite experiences. So welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I'm a psychiatrist, nothing we discussed on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. If y'all have a concern or a question, please go see a licensed medical professional and get the help that you deserve. Sound good, chat? So today we are going to be talking to ExtraEmily. I wish I knew what we were talking about, but that's okay. I don't need to know. We're just going to have a cool conversation between two people. And maybe we'll learn something, maybe we won't. I understand that maybe Emily will have some questions. So we will take a look at those. And so maybe we'll go into teaching mode. So a couple of things just before we dive into the interview. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, and here at HG, we're doing a lot of cool stuff for Mental Health Awareness Month. We had a closed beta for something new that launched, I think, 2 weeks ago. So if y'all were part of that closed beta, thank you very much for participating, and thanks for the feedback. I understand that there may be more of a thing later on, so stay tuned for all of that stuff. Couple of other things. So we've got, so coaching has helped a ton of people. We've had over 12,000 clients from 119 countries at this point. And coaching is really all about helping you build the life that you want. So when one of the things that I found as a psychiatrist is that I could help people like in my office with a particular problem. Like let's say they're struggling with depression, but if they're hopeless because their life is devoid of meaning and they don't do anything all day, I can help them with some of their emotions, maybe give them medication, things like that. But they see me for 1 hour a week. And then there's like the 100+ hours of waking time outside that they don't know how to build a life that they want. And oftentimes we have some inkling of what to do. We just can't bring ourselves to do it. So it was interesting because actually at the time, the still now CEO and chief of psychiatry at McLean Hospital, which is one of the best, if not one of the top 2 psychiatric institutions in the United States, told me to like check out coaching. And so it really opened my eyes because there's a whole other component to mental health, which is more than the treatment of mental illness. And that's what our coaching program focuses on. We've seen really, really good outcomes. We presented our outcomes last year at the APA, American Psychiatric Association. We're going back this year. And so if y'all are interested in sort of figuring out, okay, like why can't I achieve the things that I want to achieve? That's what coaching is for. Couple of other things. So we're seeing a lot of positive feedback around Dr. K's Guide to Mental Health. So this is like, basically what happens is a lot of people will ask us, okay, what do I do next? Right? So we'll have these like chunks of information, but that's the way that streaming and YouTube is. It's like chunks of information, but how do you tie those things together? How do you apply them? How do you measure them? How do you sort of integrate a meditative practice into a goal of finding your purpose? Like that's all laid out in Dr. K's Guide. People may ask, why don't we stream it? It's because if we streamed it, no one would pay attention. So this is the thing about streaming, right? Is we have to there are going to be people coming in every hour. And so we can't do 15 hours deep on one thing because the people who come in hour 13 have no idea what we've been talking about. So if y'all have this sort of sentiment that, okay, I really like what Dr. K does, but I want more. I wish he would go more in depth. I want to figure out, how do I apply this to my life? How do I integrate this into an actual solution that I can implement? That's what Dr. K's Guide is for. Way more in depth, somewhat more technical, heavy amounts of neuroscience in each guide. But the cool thing is that you can sort of choose your own adventure. So the other thing that I sort of try to do in Dr. K's Guide is duplicate my experience of sitting with a person. The basic problem with teaching online is that I can't tailor things to someone. So what we've done in Dr. K's guide is lay out sort of like a distillation of everything that I've learned over 2 decades, and then you pick the stuff that appeals to you. So at the very beginning of the depression guide, there's like okay, what is the difference between clinical depression and this sort of existential or non-clinical depression? Because that exists too. Which of these has to do with a diagnosable illness, and which of these has to do with like, I don't know what I'm doing in life. I have no reason to get up in the morning. I'm kind of grinding every day. Life feels empty, and like, I don't know how to make something useful of it. So both of those explorations are in that guide. So there's a lot of non-clinical stuff in there as well. We've also gotten a lot of really good feedback about the ADHD guide, which is ADHD and doing stuff. And the reason that people seem to like that is because, like, I was kind of thinking about, you know, the one thing we're not taught is like how to do stuff. We're told what to do. We're told what we should do. We're told what we need to do. There are things that we want to do. But when it gets to the how do you actually do it, breaking down the neuroscience, the psychology, behaviorism, understanding how you as an organism decide or end up doing something versus not doing something. What is the influence of your environment? What is the influence of your sensory perceptions? What is the influence of having a strong enough reason to do it? How do you find a strong enough reason? All that stuff is in the ADHD guide. Okay, so check those out. We also have a lot of cool community events. So we had like an event on entrepreneurship and maybe something on relationships at the same time. I'm kind of confused. On our Discord. That was done by Kruti, our awesome CEO, who happens to be my wife. So she is actually like, you know, I know that a lot of people think that HG is Dr. K, but first of all, it's like I'm just one part, right? At this point, we're like a Discord community of about 80,000, you know, close 800,000 subs on Twitch, 1.3 million people on YouTube, about 5 million scattered across the world. If you look at all of our statistics, you know, a bunch of randos from TikTok seem to be showing up nowadays. And so this community brings a lot of what HG is, and it goes way beyond me. And so we have all kinds of cool events on Discord. So definitely check those out and stay tuned to all of our channels, because what we're trying to do is put together the most impactful pieces of content for May. So we're going to try to help as many people as possible. And we're grateful to institutions like Twitch for giving us a lot of support around some of the work that we're doing. So check all of that stuff out, chat. Dr. K has booze in that mug. I wish. Not today, chat. What I've got is a nice, I don't know, you're not going to be able to see it. There's no way to see what's in. Oh, no, you can see. Does that look like booze? What kind of booze, chat? What kind of booze? Can y'all guess what this beverage is? All right, let's hop in with Emily. Enough pontificating and guess the beverage. Oh, no. Wait, did I leave this call? Wait, no. What? Oh, boy. Okay. I left the call. Let me just make sure. Give me 1 second. Emily, I scuffed it. Okay, let me... You know, you'd think that I would figure this out by now. But let me just... Yeah, damn it. Oh, no, it works.
Yippee!
What a miracle. Okay. It looks like I made my, I don't know, tech check. Hello.
Hello, Dr. K. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Is it okay if I call you Emily?
Yes, that'd be great.
And I watched your instructions on how to eat a soup dumpling recently.
You did?
Yes.
Did you agree?
That is not how I eat them.
Really? Really? How would you eat them?
So what I do is I put them in the spoon and I bite off the top.
Okay, the volcano method.
Oh, they're names for these things?
Yes. So I do the nibble method, but that's the volcano method, right? And then you pour the soy sauce in, or the sauce into the top.
I usually just blow, and then I'll blow into the top to cool it down so I don't burn myself, and then I eat with the soup in the dumpling.
Oh, that's so cool. cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
but
try that. I'll do the blow technique next time.
okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's the, but you know, to each their own, and it was interesting to see that there was that technique. I shall try that the next time I go out for dumplings with my kids.
That's so funny. Was it like a clip that was sent to you, or like a clicked on my stream at that moment?
It was I realized I'm interviewing this person, and I was curious about the content that you make, and fell down the rabbit hole of your awesome content.
Oh, Dr. K, thank you. I'm honored.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about where people can find you and what kind of content you do?
Definitely. So hello everyone. My name is ExtraEmily. I stream only on Twitch, and I usually do just streams. That's like my main focus. So twitch.tv/ExtraEmily, and my streams are like IRL challenges. So I love going in public and making a big fool out of myself. And so recently I did urban kayaking, which is I took a kayak to a skate park, and I was like rowing my boat down the slopes and whatnot. So stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds very hard.
Yeah, I got like a little scuff here, and
But
it's yeah.
how do you kayak without water?
Oh yes, you just have to have really good balance. So you just kind of row and let the slope take you.
This sounds like a profound spiritual technique. Like learn
It's
to,
very
it's like
great.
squeezing water from a stone, or what is the sound of one hand clapping, or how does one kayak in a skate park without water?
Yes,
Yeah.
you must be one with the kayak.
Or
It's
something
great.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So thank you so much. And so what is there something in particular you wanted to talk about today?
When I was asked to do the interview, a few things came to my mind.
Sure.
So it'd be great to like talk about dealing with burnout, for
Okay.
example, and not having like ways to cope with stress. I think would also be really helpful.
Sure.
And yeah, because that's like kind of the biggest things that I have to deal with right now is like I'm worried. Like there's a lot of pressure, I feel like. So I just like want to be able to navigate my stress a little better.
Sure. So what are you dealing with right now?
Oh, well, I'm like very analytics focused, so
Okay.
I'm worried that I'm gonna fall off. So that's like my biggest fear. So I'm kind of entering, and I realize that I'm entering the start of like this kind of unhealthy cycle where I have to one up my content every week, or else I feel like, oh, maybe my streams aren't as good anymore. But I'm trying to balance it out slowly so I don't burn out too quick.
Okay, you don't burn out too quick. So it's okay to burn out just as long as you burn out at an acceptable pace.
Have a burnout in 5 years, then that'll be good for me.
Yeah, so because you'll have made it by then, right?
That'll be good. Like I want to stream for at least 5 more years because I'm 25 right now, so I want to do it until I'm 30, and then yeah. So I just want to make sure I have enough longevity until then.
Why the 5 years?
I don't know. 30 seems like a nice number, so I'm like, oh, 30 would be like a great milestone to hit, and then I would prefer to do it like more, like 30. 32, but I don't know. I feel like doing the things that I do as like a 35-year-old might be a little strange. So we'll have to maybe pivot content at that point, like doing breastfeeding streams or something.
Okay, well, I'm sure you will. That will be a pivot.
Wouldn't that be crazy? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting though, because actually breastfeeding is something that really can be taught. So that they're actually
really?
like lactation consultants and nurses, and this is
wow.
it's actually a huge public health problem that we just assume that people will know how to breastfeed, but it's actually like really hard and can be really traumatic for moms and kids, because then if you can't breastfeed properly, like you feel like you're not a good mom, and then if you have to like resort to bottle feeding, and then there's all like the army of people who are like bottle feeding makes you a bad mother.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but
Yeah, that's interesting.
I assume you were joking, or maybe you weren't, but that's actually like a pretty big public health need, and like messes up a lot of like moms, and the hormones post delivery don't help.
Wow, wait, that sounds inspirational. I think I was saying it as a joke, but that sounds like a great idea now.
No, I mean seriously, like I I don't know how to make that work, but like I'd never thought about teaching that, but it's actually like a gigantic problem, like a massive problem that makes so much of postpartum depression is linked to like the inability to breastfeed. And then if you're depressed, then like you don't produce enough milk, and then the kid doesn't latch, and then you feel stressed out, and then you stop producing milk, and it's hard to bond.
Yeah.
It's like actually really bad. And people don't talk about it enough.
Wow.
But, you know, yeah, anyway. So I feel like if we spent a couple hours talking about breastfeeding, that would probably be in the wrong direction. So I'm going to change gears back to what you were talking about. So you said you're always looking at analytics. Do you feel like you have a lifespan as a streamer?
I think as a female streamer, I definitely do. I guess it's like maybe I just put in my mind, but I feel like 32 might be like the peak for me. But I don't know. It's just like based off streamers that exist now. So I know there are a lot of like really successful female streamers, 32 and older. So I'm like, oh, like if they can do it, I feel like I can do it. So that's how I kind of get my basis for that number.
Okay. So you said, especially as a woman, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like my looks will fade or something, and then I'm worried that there'll be, you know, like as I grow older, maybe I feel like people like to watch the hot new things, you know, like the hot new commodities. Wait, this sounds so bad. But I don't know, I just feel like my core community will stick around, but I feel like as a female on Twitch, it's like a little bit harder to, like, I feel like it's good to be young on Twitch as a woman.
So, you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay. So I want to just, I noticed something, and I'm curious if you are okay with me pointing this out. So in that answer, you started out saying something real, and then you pulled back from it, and then you ended up saying something more PC. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I always try to go for like a PC answer.
Yeah.
For sure.
And what happens when you do that? Do you have any, it's kind of a hard question to answer, but
so I think like one of my biggest fears is like getting canceled. So then like that kind of just kicks in, and I'm like, oh, make sure not to say anything that's too offensive or anything. And so then I think that's like where the shift kicks in.
Yeah. So I mean, but do you think that I'm with you, and I've talked to a lot of streamers about canceling PTSD or canceling anxiety, like you're just like constantly anxious about getting canceled, like, you know, it's something I felt myself, but I'm can I think for a second?
Of course.
Okay, so if we want to understand burnout, fundamentally the way to not get burnt out is to be really kind of confident and secure in yourself, and we'll explain how to get there. But I think, you know, as long as you have this anxiety of like, and it may be real, right? So, and like this is where like a lot of what we do is we like kind of speak the truth here, which is that, I mean, what do you think about female streamers and their lifespans? Like, what do you think?
I think personally that they're shorter than men streamer lifespans.
Okay, right. So so nice that you added personally. That's another anti-canceling.
Don't cancel me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you don't want to offend people. But what does it feel like to you?
So female lifespans versus like how
what is it like being a 25-year-old female streamer and looking at your analytics and thinking you've got 5 years?
It is a little scary, but I think like that's why I want to like try to be as good as I can be like during my prime age. So from 25 to 30, it's like, oh, I should really try to grind it out and try my best for the next 5 years. So then hopefully I'm at a very stable and comfortable position by the time I get 30. So I think that's part of where the stress comes from, for sure, because I have like this belief that I can only stream until I'm like 30 or 32.
Yeah. So I think well said. So let's like take a look at that, right? So if you've got a 5-year window, what does that do to your stress level?
yeah, it makes it pretty high for sure.
Why?
It's like, it's like, oh, if I don't really make it by the time that I'm 30, it's like, oh, then I feel like I can't really be a streamer anymore. So then it just puts like a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself.
Why is it unnecessary?
'Cause I feel like I'll be good if no matter what, hopefully. 'Cause I do have belief in my like content that it'll be pretty interesting and entertaining, but I don't know. I just like whenever I'm not streaming, I'm always like thinking about stream and like how to make the next one better and how to improve as a content creator, which is good for sure. It's just a lot of pressure on myself.
So I'm noticing that you kind of have both sides of a lot of these issues. That on the one
Hmm.
hand, you have faith in the content that you create. You make really good content. You're kind of proud of it.
Hmm.
There's a part of you that really thinks that you may have a lifespan beyond, 5 years, that you can go
Yes.
beyond 30. Other people are doing it. And at the same time, there's a lot of pressure. You called some of it kind of unnecessary, right? And it also sounds like I'm going to kind of toss out an interpretation here that
Hmm.
there's almost like I'm feeling like a sense of a optimism fighting with a desperation.
That's really good. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
tell us about that?
yeah, so I am optimistic because I have a really great backing behind me. So I have like the support of OTK who will always support me as a content creator. And then it's also like the desperation to make sure that it was a good choice to sign me and I am a good content creator and I just want to like prove myself a little bit, you know? So it's kind of just like the mix of those two. But I think with the help of OTK for sure, they're like super kind and then they'll always help me like grow as a content creator. So it's like, oh, I'll be fine no matter what.
Okay. And what about the desperation?
The desperation is like looking at the numbers and making sure that people are still interested in my streams. And I just want to make sure like every stream is high quality. So then I prove myself basically. And then I'm like, oh, desperate to get good streams out and whatnot. And yeah.
Okay. Can I ask you, Emily, a little bit about your upbringing?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an only child, born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. And growing up, it was a very traditional path for me. So I was like always forced to, not forced, but I was like really
There,
pressured to
there's
get
that. There's that. What'd you just do?
the PC pulled back.
Okay, good.
That could be
No,
the name of it.
yep.
Uh, okay, I'll say it. Yes, I was forced to get straight A's, or else my parents would be very mad at me. Or so then it was just like always get good grades, always do a bunch of extracurriculars to get into a good college. So I went to Columbia for my undergrad,
Damn,
and then
bro.
graduated magna cum laude. I was just like
Fucking A.
always, yeah, always focused on grades, and that's how I kind of like measured my success back then was through numbers as well, which I think carries over to me as a streamer now. It's just like I always wanted to get A's, and like if I ever got a B, I would like start crying. It was so bad. It was very toxic. So yeah, I was just like always grown up to focus on getting good grades and being like a great student because my parents wanted me to be like a smart engineer or whatever, but I just didn't really find any passion in it. So I streamed I streamed as a hobby during my full-time job at Citibank, but then I got fired from Citibank for streaming at work, and then now I'm a streamer.
Wow.
Yeah, great.
What did it feel like to get fired?
Um, I was like, I was like sobbing a lot because I've never really been fired before, and I take like, it looks like a failure in my eyes, and I'm really, oh my God, why is my voice shaking? Sorry. I take failure like pretty hard. Like I don't like failing. So then, oh, can I have a second? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
1 second.
Do we need to?
My
You can
my
take us.
voice is so shaky. Oh my gosh.
Is it okay for your voice to be shaky?
Yeah, that's okay. It's just like I feel like it's hard to listen to. It's just so shaky. Excuse me. Okay, it's because like I'm like on the brink of tears. So let me I'll get it out. Yes, Dr. K.
You don't need to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, I'm getting it out so then my voice won't be as shaky.
but why does your voice not need to be shaky?
Oh, so then people have a better listening experience.
Emily, who are you here for today?
Uh, Myself and a lot of people from my community are also here, so that's really cool. And they were like, I was really excited to have the conversation with you because I've never done this before, and I don't know, it's like also my community was really excited too, so yeah.
Okay. Um, I'm not here for your community. I'm not here for my community. I'm not here for me. I'm here for you.
Thanks, Dr. K.
And you do this thing where you smile and you've got an amazing smile. You're like, thanks, Dr. K. And then it's like back to the tears, bro.
Yeah.
And so like if we're talking about burnout, like, oh my God, like you're so hard on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't articulate properly, like there's no grade, there's no like I I'll stutter for a while. Will that help you feel better?
No, it's okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm getting it all out. But
Okay.
yeah.
What happened in your mind over the last 60 seconds?
Uh,
90
so
seconds.
I realized that my voice was shaking like maybe like 5 minutes ago, and I'm like, oh gosh, the tears are coming. And then I think just talking more about I don't know, like my past, and it's just nice to get it all out. I don't really like talk about this stuff a lot, so it's nice being able to share it with you, and then just like kind of like cathartic tears coming out. But
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm going to say something. I'm going to say that was right underneath the surface. We didn't have to dig very far.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
true.
So let's kind of take a step back. I think that if you want to focus on burnout, I think this
Mm-hmm.
is going to be related, and we'll kind of map all this stuff out for you in a way that your magna cum laude Columbia brain can process, your analytics
Thanks.
brain can process. But I
Mhm.
want to just like stop for a second and just ask you, like, I mean, do you know, like, so I noticed a pressure in you I can't have a shaky voice.
Mhm.
What's that like?
Oh, I feel like it's because it doesn't sound as nice, and I think my main issue is I care a lot about what other people think, and I think that's where a lot of the issues stem from, is that I am a huge people pleaser. Like I was kind of just brought up like that, and I recognize that, so I just want to make sure that my voice sounds good for people.
How do you understand being a people pleaser? Like what goes on? What do you think is happening there?
Um, it's just like I'm really bad with conflict, so I try to avoid conflict at all costs, and I like to make sure that people are feeling comfortable, and I really like bringing smiles to people's faces. But yeah, and I just like being really energetic and happy a
I
lot.
see that.
Hmm.
It sounds like it's a lot of work.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's not too bad. Like I feel like I've done it so much my entire life. It's just like who I am at this point. I'm like always really happy and energetic a lot.
That honestly makes me sad.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just like I realize that I think I'm really happy when I'm like not happy, but like really energetic when I'm around people. And
Mhm.
then when I'm alone, I just kind of like lay there and marinate in my juices, like on the bed or whatever. But then when I'm like surrounded around people, I'm like always super excited, and I don't really know what that means.
How does it feel to not make people happy?
Oh, then I feel really bad. Yeah. I
In what does feeling bad look like or feel like to you? What is your
I like
experience of that?
if I make someone feel upset, I feel like disappointed in myself or something, or like maybe uh like I get a little concerned, and then um Usually it's not for too long though. I just kind of keep going. It depends on the situation, I suppose.
And when you're marinating in your own juices,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
what?
So that's what I love to sleep and like lay in bed and just read or like go on my phone or whatnot. Like that's like some nice personal time that I have
So that's a good
to
thing.
myself. Yeah. I love to just lay there and relax.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you because the way that you described it was almost like as an opposite of like getting this extrovert energy, and so I almost was reading between the lines that that's like you marinate in like some negative space.
Oh no, it's good juice. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good juices. Okay, so it's like a tasty marinade.
Yes, yes, like a marinara sauce or something. Yeah.
Okay, and how do you understand this conflict avoidance?
Wait, say that again?
How do you understand conflict avoidance? So you said you avoid conflict.
Uh-huh. So, well, like whenever someone's mad at me, like I had a few experiences in college with like a roommate who was upset with me, and I would just get really scared and just avoid her. So that was kind of unhealthy. But I would just try to like not talk about it until they bring it up first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna. Is it okay if I share a couple thoughts? And that
Of course.
I'm a little bit honestly. See, okay, I'm gonna just think out loud.
Yes.
Okay, so I was about to say, I'm a little bit lost because when there's something right underneath the surface, I don't know if I should ask more about that because you want. I'm hearing that you want to put on a good face here,
Oh,
and that you're trying.
you can ask that as deep questions as you'd like. So
Okay, good to know, and okay, let me ask you a question. Why? Why is it okay for me to ask deep questions?
uh, why? It's because I want you to do whatever you want to do, and I don't want you to stop yourself from what you want to do. So yeah, so that's like kind of going back to the people
Okay.
pleaser thing.
Good. I'm glad you pointed it out.
Yes.
So I'm going to finish my train of thought and then
Okay.
we're going to. Man, this is tricky. Okay. Because here's the thing. So I'm sitting here, right? And I'm like, okay, so here's this girl and it's really important for her to prove herself. She wants to be a bastion of joy and positivity. And so she's going to show up here with like safe things to talk about, ways to cope with stress. Everyone feels stress. That's relatable. You're allowed to feel stress. You're a streamer. We can talk about analytics and numbers. Okay? So it's like very safe. Then I ask you about, and that, now the challenge is that if we really want to learn how to deal with burnout, you can't do it the way you're doing it now, which is like living for other people. So you will be one of the most successful streamers on the planet if you keep doing what you're doing. And at this point, we've got a really interesting, hopefully we'll release a report recently, but we're collaborating with a company that analyzes streamer like performance and streamers who have gone through our creator coaching program, and their performance has objectively gone up quite a bit. The challenge, though, is that if you look at streamers who sacrifice everything of themselves, they become really successful. You're tuned into analytics, you know what people want, and you will give it to them no matter the cost to you because you've got 5 years. And in that window, unless you succeed, it's GG, right? So here you are. Now, here's the challenge that I face is that if you really want to understand burnout, you've got to understand this. It's not about pleasing other people out there because that's what's going to lead you to burnout. Like if we think about fundamentally what is burnout, it's people pleasing to the point of self-harm. That's what burnout is in a nutshell. I'm going to do what makes this person happy at the cost of myself, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again until my tank is empty, and then I am unable to do it. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to feel bad about myself. I'm going to disappoint them anyway, and now I've sacrificed all this shit, and I end up disappointing them. And then I'm mad at myself. And then self-loathing comes in. Why can't I do better? And then I have to wake up tomorrow and I have to make content. I have to put on a fucking happy face, which you would do such a good job of. It's a compliment, but it's also, it makes me sad. Just seeing how much you turn it on. Like, you know. And so now I'm kind of stuck because I don't know if you really want to talk about this stuff or that's why I asked. I was like, wait, you ask as deep as question. And I'm like, hold on a second. You sure about that? Because when I actually asked a deep question, it seemed like it was hard for you. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to disappoint me. And you want to prove yourself as strong and willing to touch on anything. But if there's one thing that I would love it if you could walk away from, it's that you don't have to. Mm-hmm. That you get to say, you know what? You can be disappointed because I don't want to do that. And that actually is hard for me and I don't feel like doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be proud of you. I'm going to be happy that you're learning how to set boundaries and that you're putting yourself first. Not even first, maybe not last.
Thank you.
So now we're going to sit here. We're just going to be teary for a second.
Yeah.
You look panicked.
Oh, no, I'm trying to find my my tissues.
Okay. I don't have any either. Oh, that looks like a not very good tissue.
Yeah, I ran out of tissues because I blow my nose on stream a lot. But I have this. That's cool. It's interesting when you said like that you can see me turn it on a lot. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it, like what would you call it? The pullback PC?
PC pullback.
Yeah, right. So
Mm-hmm.
you do this thing where like you're crying
Mm-hmm.
and then you smile. And
Mm-hmm.
it's such a beautiful smile and it's so genuine. Right?
You.
And like if you're not really paying attention, it seems great. But it's like, wait, where'd the crying girl go? For like a second. I'm good. I don't need a tissue. Thank you though.
Nice.
Looks like the old wife is watching.
Sweet.
Am I not being nice?
Just be nice.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, don't worry.
I'm trying.
Teach her how to send her order back in restaurants.
Okay, well, she's not ready for that. My wife said teach her how to send her order back in restaurants if she's not happy with it. And I said, you're not ready for that.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that.
So that's an exercise that I give people who like need to
Really?
learn how to, like set boundaries and avoid conflict.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. It works really well, but it's really hard for people to do. I don't think you're there yet.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it.
Anyway, so I'm sorry, what you were asking about the turning it on? Yeah, so I just, and it's like, and what I see in that moment is like this is going to be a strong word, but a disintegration of who you are. Okay. And if you want to like not burn out, you can't keep separating and like sacrificing one piece for like to make everybody else happy. And even on some level that makes you happy too. So it's not just other people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this kind of also ties back to a issue that I have is like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but like people on the internet, like I read all the comments on like LSF and everything, and they all like, a lot of people call me fake, and which I really dislike, but now I'm like, I don't even know anymore. Like I can't really, like, is that like a symptom of fakeness? Would you say? Like kind of putting on the smile.
What would it mean to you if you were fake?
Say that again.
What would it mean to you if I said, yes, this is a symptom of fakeness? I pronounce you fake.
Then I would be like, I'm not fake because that's just who I am. And then I would just like go into defensive mode, I guess. Yeah.
Do you feel, how do you feel about being fake?
I don't like it because I would like to think of that I'm genuine myself, but I don't know.
So here's my take on it. I don't think you're fake. I think it's disintegration. So I think that you take the authentic, you can't fake it this far, right? You just can't. Like I think even when it goes back to the dumpling watching you eat dumplings. Like you can't, your curiosity, your passion, your genuine like love of life, I think comes through. But I don't think it's the whole you. And I think what some people may be picking up on is this back and forth. Does that?
Yeah, that can make sense. Like, I don't know. Like the whole fake discussion is like really confusing to me because I'm always like, oh, but like I'm just acting how I would act. So then, but they're like, oh, she's like way too happy, or like there's no way that she can always be so happy. And I'm like, oh, I just feel like I am. I don't know. It's like, and then if when you said like, oh, you can see me like turn it on, I'm like, oh, then maybe it's just like how I am to just be like always happy, but that's like the disintegration part where I do want to be sad, but I feel like I pressure on myself to always be happy.
Mm-hmm. And so what does it mean to not be happy?
What does it mean to not be happy?
Or is it okay to not be happy?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the issue is like when I'm on stream when I'm on stream, it's important to me that I want to always seem really happy and bubbly and positive. Because when I'm not on stream, I'm not always happily, bubbly, and positive. I'm like stressed a lot from the burnout feeling, right? So it's like it is very like two different dichotomies of what I deal with every day. It's just like I enjoy being really happy on stream because that's like my happy place, and like I love doing IRL stuff. And then when I'm not on stream, it's just like, oh, stress. Oh, what do I do next? Oh, stuff like that. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Is it okay if you didn't?
It is okay.
Do you really feel that? Or are you just saying that because that's the right answer?
I feel that. Yeah. It's okay if I don't answer it properly.
Because we'll peel back the layers of the onion until we find the right answer. I mean, the authentic answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not gonna let you slide.
Good. That's great.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, Emily, here's what I'm kind of hearing, and I don't know exactly where to go with this, but here's what I'm seeing one theme emerge, which is I'm gonna call it the theme of disintegration, and I don't mean like disintegrate like, the spell that makes things disappear. I mean literally the splitting up of the self.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I kind of mentioned this early on when I sort of said like, oh, it seems like you kind of hold both sides. And then we sort of talk a little bit about like being happy on stream and then sad. And I think it makes a lot of sense to me that people can look at you and think, how can she be so happy? But I think it's like if you genuinely enjoy streaming and what you do in your life is you take all of your negativity and you push it to the side and you let that authentic positivity come out. I think that's probably part of the reason that you've grown and you're successful and stuff like that. Because I think people who fake being happy, like we usually can pick up on it. But I think some people may be able to detect that there is that you're taking a neutron and you're splitting it into a proton and an electron, and we're only getting the proton.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Right. And I think we see this in a microscopic way too, even in terms of your like facial expressions. And it's like, it's like flipping a card over. It's like on the back, it looks one way, and then, it's like, oh, magic trick. And it's like, oh, like now it's like the ace of spades. And then it's like, boom. And now it's like, oh, look, it's the back of the card. And now it's a different, And so I think we see that. And I don't, and here's the important thing to understand is that I don't necessarily think you should stop doing that. That's for you to decide. But I think it's really important to understand that all human beings will separate things out. Like that's just how we cope with life.
Yeah.
We can't feel everything all the time. But it's probably going to be healthy for you, is my guess, and from a burnout perspective, because when I help people with burnout, it's usually that the patterns that they engage in are driven by that separation. Because if you're fully integrated with yourself, you would not engage in those behaviors in the same way. And then the real consequence of that is people don't want to integrate because they want to engage in those behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you let the negativity in, what would happen, Emily?
then I'm negative on stream, and then that would be bad.
What would be bad about it?
I feel like as a streamer, one of my main goals is to make people laugh and stuff, and like if I'm negative, I don't want it to show through, or not, yeah, I'll say show through, and then I don't know, it's just like I want me to make people happy.
Okay.
And if I'm negative, I feel like I can't make people happy.
So I detect maybe I don't detect. I'm hypothesizing, so that's a little bit unfair. That there is a piece that's a PC answer. Is there more to it?
What's the question again?
What's the consequence? What's the problem of not being bubbly on stream? What if you were negative on stream? What would happen? What are you afraid of?
Well, I guess I have, like, is it negative all the time? Because I definitely have been negative, but I just kind of, like, brush it off. Or I just say, like, oh, fuck! Or, like, you know, some expletive words. And then I just, like, move on.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Fair, but what I'm sort of wondering about is you try not to be negative, right? You try to be positive.
Let's see. Well, like if I don't know, like if I feel in a negative way, I express it.
Okay.
Yeah. So like if I'm like annoyed by something, like I express that, or I guess I don't really express it because I just fall silent whenever I'm annoyed. I'm just like or like when I'm tired or something.
Okay.
So yeah, but I'm like happy a lot on stream because it's fun to stream. So
yeah.
But if something does happen negatively, then I don't like try to push it down. I just kind of like mention it and then move on.
I understand. So let me just see if I kind of get this. So like
Yeah.
you're able to authentically own negativity
Yeah.
as random events during streaming,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. What I'm talking about is like, you know, the part of you that's off stream and is terrified of analytics and stuff like that. Like if that part infected the stream, Emily, what would happen?
I just feel like it wouldn't be enjoyable to watch or listen to if I'm always like complaining or stressed. I'm like, oh, chat, I don't know what to do tomorrow. Oh, and then I just feel like it's something that I should figure out on my own instead of publicizing it to chat.
Okay, and what is the consequence of not being what chat wants?
That's interesting. So if I were to bring that negative like the negative mindset into like my normal stream, the consequence would be like, I guess it would, I don't know, because I've never done it. I'm thinking like maybe I would lose viewers, but I don't know if I actually would.
So now you're actually thinking about it, but but I think there's a pretty loud voice inside you that is saying, don't ever fucking do that.
Yeah. Or like, I just think it's just like so, like not needed to talk about on stream that I should never bring it up.
Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's just like a personal, like,
but
I don't know.
I'm noticing that when you sort of talk about the consequences, you're talking about disappointing your viewers.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there
sense.
anything else that you're worried about besides disappointing your viewers?
I guess like just like the normal like falling off or getting canceled is another big worry. Or people being like, oh, her content isn't as good or she's getting stale or whatever. So, yeah.
So, okay. So I'm asking questions a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
And this time I asked a question, and what did you notice in yourself?
I put on my smile again.
Yep. But before you put on your smile, what did you do?
My voice shaked.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what do you know what you were feeling?
I was just like I was either like nervous to answer or I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's nervousness.
And what are you nervous about? Like, what do you think is going on there? What were we talking about? Do you remember?
We're talking about what, uh, like what consequences I'm scared of
Yep.
or think I.
And let me ask that again, okay?
Uh-huh.
Are you're doing great, by the way.
Oh,
And you got to let me know if this is hard for me to tell what you actually want from this. So I'm trying my best here, okay? When it's not your fault, it's not, you don't have to perfectly know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just so like, what are the consequences that have, so sure, like people may be disappointed, but what's the consequence of that? What does that mean for you, Emily?
The consequence of people being disappointed.
You use the word stale.
Yeah. It's like, oh, her streams are getting boring or stale.
What happens when the viewership starts to drop?
Then I get into panic mode. For sure.
And then what happens?
And then I feel the pressure to do a better stream the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's still low, I'm like, oh gosh, what do I do? Everything's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of just ask for help. And
Oh, that's so healthy.
yeah.
I'm so happy that you do that.
Yes. I ask for help.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna come out and say it because I don't know if we're beating around the bush or not, or I don't know if I'm wrong here, or I don't know if you're avoiding. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, I think you fail, right? It all comes crumbling down, and then you're 27, and you've tried to be a streamer for a couple of years, and it's fallen apart around you. And then where are you? What do your parents think? What do people think? How do you impress people anymore? You got fired once. That sounded unpleasant.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that would not be good. If it all falls apart. But I have told myself that if streaming doesn't work out, I'm gonna go get an MBA and just go back to corporate life. So at least I have a backup plan.
Yes,
Thankfully.
yes, you do. Yes, that's very. Have you discussed that backup plan with your parents?
They've always wanted me to get an MBA, but I'm like, parents, let me do my passion of streaming, and they're like, okay, Emily. So they're supportive of me now, but they weren't supportive of me before, like when I first started streaming.
How did you win them over? How did they come out?
Because they saw I was actually making money, so they're like, okay, great, and yeah, and then they're like, good with it.
How does that feel?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but so I'm like not surprised that's how they reacted, but I'm happy that they support me now. And it's kind of just like a haha, I told you I would be able to be a good streamer because they didn't believe in me for like the first few months or like year. So it's kind of like I told you so moment.
What is it like to have parents that their support seems conditional? What's that like?
I've gotten kind of used to it now. It's kind of like they're proud of me if I get good grades and whatnot, and they're proud of me if I am like a big streamer, and I'm like, thanks, mom and dad. So at this point, I'm used to it, but I also like how my parents raised me. I think, yeah, because I'm like, oh, I'm very achievement driven, but sometimes I feel like that's where a lot of my stress comes from, is making sure that I think that's where a lot of my people pleasing aspects comes from. Is from pleasing my parents a lot.
Can you say a little bit more, help us understand that a little bit?
So growing up, it was like, oh, I always want to get good grades and be be the first place in my piano competition, so then my parents will be happy with me and pleased, and then they'll be like, "Great job, Emily," and I'm like, "Okay, great." So that's like a lot of my childhood is making sure I don't let them down. So yeah, I don't know if that's like too strict or anything. But that's just what I went through growing up a lot. I'm not sure if that's common.
I'm just going to think for a second, okay?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I'm proud of myself for sure. I'm happy with my streaming career right now. It's like, oh, everything's going great. So I'm proud of how far I made it as a streamer and graduating from college and doing that stuff.
What are you feeling as you answer that question?
Uh, I feel really confident in that answer that I'm proud of myself. So I'm like,
it seemed to me like your voice started shaking a little bit.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
I don't know. I do feel very proud of myself though. So
I think so too. I think there's a lot of genuine pride there.
mhm.
So when I asked you a little bit about, what it was like sort of being very performance oriented with your parents, your answer was, I've gotten used to it.
Mhm.
What do you think about that answer?
I've gotten used to it. I think it sounds bad, but it's just like how I've been raised my entire life. So I don't see any other way of being raised.
Hmm?
And it's just like, oh, if you have good performance, that's very good stuff. So,
Were
yeah,
you
I'm
jealous of other kids growing up?
mm, a lot of my childhood friends had very similar upbringings, especially so I was in Nebraska, right? And then a lot of the Chinese kids just knew each other because there's not a lot of Chinese people in Nebraska. So I noticed that a lot of my Chinese friends had very similar upbringings. And then when I would go to school, I'd get jealous of the kids that would have 10 pets because I wanted pets too. So that was what I was jealous of. But because I saw that a lot of people, a lot of childhood friends of Chinese upbringing were similar to me, I wasn't really, I was like, oh, this must be normal. Or like, I wasn't really that jealous.
Out of the stuff that we've talked about, Emily, what seems interesting to you, or what do you want to talk more about?
I really like talking about, I thought the disintegration part is really cool because I definitely do, I do exhibit that where it's like off stream, I never bring my off stream troubles, like I don't really talk about them on stream. And like I'm wondering if that's healthy or not.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a choice. And you can pick anything outside of the options that I give you, okay?
Okay.
So we can approach that in one of two ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit concerned about, you can do it the cathartic way,
Mm-hmm.
which is I ask you questions that make you cry.
Okay.
And then you'll learn something about yourself, but I don't know exactly what you'll learn. I'm a little bit hesitant to go down that road because there's a part of me that actually is sort of like, I don't know how ready for this you are. And I also don't know if that discussion should be like live on stream, TBH.
Okay.
And I'm not trying, and I even have to be, I'm fucking playing 5D chess in my head because if I say that to you, are you gonna feel like, oh my God, like I've come across as so weak that now I'm like disappointing him and that's what he wants. And so like, I cause like if I say, oh, we like, I don't, you're gonna have to help me out here. Cause
Yeah.
I can't predict that far, right? So it's got to be just like, we've got to figure this out, and you're not going to disappoint me at all. I don't think you're going to disappoint anybody. And here's the wild thing. If you do, fuck them.
Yeah. Fuck them.
Okay?
Exactly.
So like,
Right.
and so then the other option is that I can pull out the iPad, I can screen share with you, and we can understand disintegration.
I'm gonna do the first one.
Okay, fuck.
That'll be cool.
All right.
I'm just.
Okay.
I hope I can answer it properly.
Oh, no.
I feel like my answers are like so. I realize one thing about me is that I just feel like I'm not that self-aware as I should be, but like I'm just not very self-aware.
Yeah,
I'm just
I
kind of like going through life, la la la, just doing what I can, like doing streams, thinking about stream, and then that's it.
Yeah. So okay, so when you say you've gotten used to it,
Yeah.
what did you not say?
That I didn't say that it was a pretty strict upbringing, and I didn't like it in the moment, but in retrospect, I think it was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're taking chicken shit and you're turning it into chicken salad.
Yum.
So
Yes.
so here's what's going on. So when you say I got that was your first answer, okay? I got used to it.
Uh-huh.
What do you need? What kinds of things do we get used to, Emily?
We get used to taking hot showers.
Okay. So we get it's kind of like a read my mind question. So
okay, sorry.
like you don't get used to, like, do you ever get used to getting hugs from a loved one? You don't get used to that,
Oh.
right? You don't get used to eating your favorite food. You get used to bad things.
Oh.
You see that?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So
Yes.
and so like it's kind of interesting because like I see you doing this thing and this is the disintegration. So you're like, dude, you're really good at gymnastics, man. So you're like, I got used to it.
Uh-huh.
And now what you do, and you're not wrong. You have a lot to be grateful for from like the traditional Asian parent upbringing. I mean, like I kind of had it similar. My parents were more AFK, so like I got away with a lot, but they were like, my dad, when I was 9 years old, was like, I have an older brother, and he's like, one of you is going to be doctor, and one of you is going to be lawyer.
Yeah.
Because he decided that within the family, if like one of us was a doctor and one of us was a lawyer, we could handle most of the things. And, you know, that was like my upbringing. Mm-hmm. But like, I think this is where kind of this disintegration comes in, is you just can't fucking own that when things are bad. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like, and I'm not blaming you for that. So let me know if I'm afraid I'm going to beat you up, but you said you want to go for it. So
Yeah,
I don't even know if that's performative or not, which is like,
No, let's go for it.
okay. So, you know, and then you do this thing where it's like, well, now I'm grateful.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, so let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
If you had a kid, and I'm presuming you don't have kids, who knows, maybe you've got kids.
No.
But if you had a kid, how would you raise them?
Oh gosh. Yeah, so like this is a debate that I go into my head like all the time. It's like, oh, do I be a tiger mom or do I be like really lenient? Because I don't know how I'm gonna be as a mom. I would want them to get good grades, kind of similar to how I was raised, but not as like end all be all, I would say. But I would like be like, make sure to get good grades.
If your kid got a B, what would you say?
I would be like, what happened here, bucko? And then they would probably explain themselves, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, try harder next time. Maybe, yeah, I think I would say that.
If your kid asks for a pet?
I'll be like, are you ready for that? And then they'll be like, yes, and I'll be like, no, you're not. I don't know about that. And then, well, hopefully I'll have a dog by then, because I kind of want a dog. But if they want their own pet, I mean, I'll give them like a hamster or something.
Okay.
If they get all A's that semester as a reward.
And so what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of good stuff you learned from your parents. Mm-hmm. And that there are some adjustments you would make.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up without those adjustments?
Mm, uh, it was like I had to do anything to succeed, so it it like kind of made me into like a little cheater. Oh my gosh. Oh, I have this story on I told on stream how I was doing like a practice ACT test, and then my dad was like, "Oh my gosh, you got a 35 in English on your practice test. Great job." But the reality is I was looking at the answer key because I was nervous that I would get a bad grade, and so then he like caught me looking at the answer key like the next time, and then he was really mad. He tore up the he ripped out the answer key and put it at the neighbor's house to make sure I wouldn't cheat again. So it was kind of like I would do anything to make it seem good in my parents' eyes. So,
Okay.
yeah, that was kind of unhealthy, but
And
yes.
how do you're telling the story like it's a funny story.
Oh, yeah, I think it's kind of funny.
Okay. So
I think it's funny that he put it to gave it to the neighbor's house.
are there any other emotions that are tied to the story that
Oh yeah, fear from being caught. Was it nervousness taking the while looking, and then just like yeah, sadness after.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you remember why you can you tell us about why you started using the answer key in the first place? Like, do you remember what you were thinking, feeling?
Oh, it's just like, oh, if I get a bad score, they're gonna either make me like study a lot more, or they're going to be mad at me. So I'm like, I'll just guarantee my good score on the practice test by cheating.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that's not funny,
Oh, yes, yes.
right? And so I see actually a lot of genuine humor here. So what I think
Mm-hmm.
is actually delightful and makes me really like you is that when you are being admonished, you're a little mischievous.
Yeah.
So
Mischievous.
so it's almost weird because I feel like you're back in school and I'm trying to teach you about emotions and you're like, yeah. So I get a lot of genuine positivity from you when you're telling the story, but it's fucked up.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about reintegrating, we have to be able to feel those things and acknowledge the whole spectrum. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just saw you go
Reintegrating.
into 4.0 student mode.
Wait, so can you say that last sentence again?
The 4.0 student mode or the
Oh, the reintegrating?
yeah. So you told a bad story. You told a story
Yeah. Yes.
about how you were so terrified of your parents that you were pushed to cheat. And then when you cheated, your parents really rewarded you, right? Which was like awesome and relief, but also like kind of fucked up. And then they eventually found out and then they tore it up, which I imagine you were not laughing about then,
Yeah, that was
right?
bad.
Right? So you were probably crying and all that kind of stuff. And then they took it to the neighbor's house, which I agree is like a really funny sort of, you know, what's going on there. But it's sort of like, you know, it's like if I have a gigantic pile of shit and I put a cherry on top, it's like, that's
shit.
not what we're
Yeah.
eating here, right? The
Yeah.
cherry on top is like not really. And so it's interesting because really this kind of emotional separation is a well-known consequence of actually like sort of the science of trauma. So I'm not diagnosing you with anything, or you know, you may not really be diagnosable with anything. It's completely fair, but 60% of people have traumatic experiences growing up, and what our mind learns how to do is divide stuff. So this is what's really interesting when people grow up in traumatic upbringing. What they actually do is there's a part of our brain called the corpus callosum, which connects our right hemisphere to our left hemisphere. Left hemisphere is like analysis. Right hemisphere is emotions. And the corpus callosum, the part that connects the two, actually becomes like, I mean, it doesn't get severed or anything, but the neuronal activity across the corpus callosum drops.
Oh, okay.
If you grow up in like traumatic experiences. Because what our brain literally learns how to do is we have these emotions over here. And by the way, language comes from the left side as well. So literally what happens is the talking and the emotions become completely separate. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, it does. It's interesting. I never thought of it like that. So I'm learning a lot.
And so we should applaud you for learning a lot, right? Because that's what you're here to do.
Yay!
How does it feel? Yeah, see, we don't want to go there.
Oh, yeah.
You're not, I mean, it's okay, but now I'm stuck with schoolgirl. And if I say you're doing good, then you're like, that opens up that thing. And if I say you're doing bad, then it's like, okay, I'm admonished.
No. I just never thought of it like trauma or anything.
Yeah.
Because that word carries like such heavy weight in my mind, for sure. But it does make sense, like the disintegration from talking and emotion.
And so I think when it comes to burnout, like this is where there's like a lot of other like really common stuff. And I guess we're going into lecture mode anyway. But, you know, I think that really what people make the best content when they're emotionally integrated.
Mm-hmm.
And they also are able to set limits, because the other consequence that I see is that if you're not in tune with your negativity, how do you know when it's getting out of control? So that's why people burn out. Because it's kind of like, imagine, you know, I give you numbing medication and you have like a wound. You're going to keep using, let's say like you have pulled muscle and I numb it up. You're going to keep walking and you're going to keep damaging the muscle. And that's what ends up with burnout, is lack of emotional integration. And I mean, so I'm going to try this again and we'll see what happens, if that's okay.
Yeah.
What was it like getting fired from Citibank?
I was really shocked. First I was shocked, and I was like, because I thought I was gonna get like promoted, which is crazy, because they told me that they found me streaming like in December, but then I found out that I was getting fired in June. So I'm like, oh, it's already June, like it's fine. Like they probably forgot about it by then. So then when I found out that I got fired, I was shocked. I was like, wait, actually? And then, but I was also not too worried because I had streaming as my backup plan. It was like going really well at that point. So I was shocked, and then I cried about it for 2 days after. Because I got fired, and I'm like, oh my God, that's going to look so bad on my record if I ever go back to the corporate world or whatever, and it just doesn't look that good. So that's how I felt, I think, were just those two emotions. But also like, oh, I'll just full send streaming then.
Okay. So I've asked you this question twice, and we got two very different answers.
Yeah, that's true.
How do you understand that?
It's like, I think the first time I said like, oh, I was like really sad, right? And then I think now I'm able to think more closely about my emotions and what I felt in the moment, and kind of articulate it a little better.
Yes. Right? So here's the thing. You were feeling emotion, or you were articulating. Right? So like last time, I don't know if you remember, but you literally sank into the chair. Right? You got emotional. You were feeling those emotions. And so I think that, and now as I'm reminding you of it, what are you feeling?
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I was like crying. I was like sobbing. Because I was talking about like failure. I think that was like my one word. I'm like, oh God, talk about failure. And then it's like, oh, I don't like feeling like a failure. And then I just like started melting.
Right? And if you start crying on stream, what's going to happen? Your numbers are going to go down, and then you're going to
cry.
Fail.
More. And fail, yes. And stress.
Right? all of
Yes.
that, because I think this is what it kind of comes down to is understanding, like, sure, I mean, you'll cry and stuff, but I think you're terrified of failure,
For sure.
and that's something. But is it okay to fail?
I know it's okay to fail, but if I fail, I'll be really sad.
Right.
So it's
So
like,
which part of
yeah.
your brain knows that it's this is the problem, is
Right.
and this is where I think people sort of think you're fake. I don't think you're fake. I think it's just you're just like you're disintegrated. Because if you had a friend who failed,
I'll be like, it's okay.
yeah, right. You know, you can do better next time, and it could be a blessing in disguise. And it seems like actually getting fired is one of the best things that could happen to you, TBH.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you understand all that stuff, but then apart from that, there's like terrified Emily. Do you know who I'm talking about? Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Terrified Emily. She's the one who's like pretty insecure, and she's nervous about falling off and getting canceled, everyone hating her. That's the terrified Emily who makes the PC Emily come out because she's like, don't get canceled, you know. So it's like all these different parts
Yeah.
in my brain for sure.
And what do you do with terrified Emily?
Terrified Emily. I'm not really like terrified outside of stream, but it's like kind of that aspect, like that version of her when I'm not streaming. It's just like the nervous Emily, like the scared Emily, and then I'm just like I just try to figure out what to stream and whatnot and make sure that I have good content. So I see her like kind of a lot when I'm stressed about streaming.
Yeah, so I think you've discovered a couple of really important things. The first is that I'm going to use the phrase state of consciousness.
Okay.
So terrified Emily is a state of consciousness, and you can sink further into that state or you can come out of that state. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She's kind of there. You can visit her.
Yeah.
Now, here's another really interesting thing. If she's terrified of something, how do you deal with that? You kind of said it already, but I'm sort of asking you to re-articulate it.
Say that again.
What's the antidote to terror? If you're feeling afraid of being a failure, what do you do?
Am I afraid of being a failure? I just try to sit and think about how to get better or like improve, or I just be like, okay, just think of something else.
Okay,
and
so
improve.
let's understand this. So right brain is feeling fear of failure. Let me just think about whether I want to go on a tangent. So you failed before, right?
Yeah.
And that's painful.
Yes.
It's so painful. I'm going to kind of ask a leading question here, read my mind question. You don't have to answer. But like, what did you decide when you failed? Like when you did you have any like resolutions that you made or anything like that?
I was like, okay, I want to try to avoid this feeling again. So then I was like, okay, just try not to fail, so you don't have to feel this again.
All right. So you made a resolution that never again. So it's hard for me to tell. I would guess that there's a lot of emotion when you made that decision. I would guess that you said to yourself, never again, never again, never again. I'm not hearing that from you, so I don't know if I'm off, which I very well could be because I wasn't there and I certainly can't read your mind, or whether there's some amount of emotional, like turning down the volume on the way that you represent it. Does that make sense? Which one do you think it is? Do you think you're turning down the volume, or do you think I'm off?
I think it's the volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because then what happened is you were like, okay, but now what's really interesting is when you get an emotion, you don't fix it on the right hemisphere. You jump over to the left hemisphere and you say to yourself, what are the things that I can do outside of here that can protect me from failure?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is it okay to fail?
Yes.
No, it's not. What the fuck?
It's not for me it's not. Yeah. But so it's like I hate the feeling of failure, so then I'm like, okay, do not fail.
Right? And then is it okay to feel terrified of failure? no, it is not
Yeah.
okay. You have to be positive, Emily. Is failing, I'll ask you again.
Uh-huh.
And let me know if I terrify you too much from a schoolgirl
Oh.
standpoint, okay? Is it okay to fail?
No.
What,
For me.
how does it feel to say that?
Like I'm like coming to I'm like realizing like, oh, how high of an expectation that is on myself.
And what does it do to you to have to carry that expectation around?
I just like have so much more stress, I think, with that expectation.
How would you feel about, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this. This could be hard, so we'll try a couple times, okay?
Okay.
How do you feel if you were to like step outside of yourself and you were to look at yourself? How would you feel about this person and the way that they're living their life?
I would think that they're being really hard on themselves. And like they're doing great. Like set stream is going well. They have a lot of great friends, surrounded by a lot of great people. I'm like, why is she feeling like that? Like she's doing great. And she shouldn't be too hard on herself. That's what I would think.
Okay. So let's notice a couple of other things. She's doing great. She has so many friends. Are you smiling, Emily?
Yep.
No, you're not. You're crying.
What? Oh, but I'm smiling through the tears, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
like, so,
yeah, but
so,
I'm-
so, so
yeah.
earlier we're telling traumatic stories and we're grinning, right? Because they're funny. Because it's
Yeah.
shit sandwich with a cherry on top. And now
Right.
we're talking about how you're doing so well and how do you feel about her?
I feel like she should just relax a little more. She should
Okay.
be able to relax.
So now we're seeing some difficulty because she should relax. That's what you fucking tell yourself. And I think, why does she feel this way? But what I'm hearing is that you feel sad for her. Like what I see in your emotions, I don't know if you feel sad.
Yeah.
There's also, it's tragic.
Oh, tragic. Oh gosh. Yes, that's very, very sad.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Can something about you be tragic? That, because think about it, right? Because that's what you were sort of saying. You were like, wow, she's like she's like young and she's successful and she's bounced back and she's so capable and she's got so many friends and she's got her whole life ahead of her. And this poor girl, it's tragic that she can't even enjoy it. That every day that goes by, she's not able to relax and enjoy what she's worked so hard for. That she's doing everything right and she doesn't deserve this.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It reminds me of like when I have like a really good stream, I'm like oh, it was all right like after it. But then when I have a not as good stream, I'm like, oh, that was horrible. But I don't really celebrate the wins as much as I should. I feel like. Yeah, so it's a little tragic, right?
Yeah. Little tragic.
A little tragic.
Right? So I'm trying to kind of we're co-oping here. Okay? So like I'm using heavier words, but
Okay.
what I notice in your emotional response is I think resonance.
Yeah,
Unless
for
you're
sure.
faking it and the little cheater is manipulating me, which I mean, you're smarter than I am for sure. I sure as hell didn't graduate from Columbia magna cum laude. But does that make sense?
Yeah, it's definitely resonating for sure.
So, where are you now? Like, we've been at this for about an hour and a half. Just like, where are you?
Yeah. Oh wow, that flies by so fast. I feel like I've learned a lot about myself, like the splitting like on stream versus off stream for sure. And I don't know. I've had a lot of great takeaways. Like it's okay to fail, and this recent discussion, it's like it is really tragic how hard I am on myself, and it really puts things into perspective. For sure.
And do you have any thought? I know we've been kind of all over the place, but I'm curious about, is there anything that you think you can take forward from this conversation? If not, I'm going to lay it out. I mean, I'm going to lay it out either way, but I'm just curious, what to include and what not to include. And if the answer is nothing, that's totally fine.
It's like when discussing, it's okay to be like show the sad side on stream. I still feel like I can't do that.
That's fine.
So,
That's not a takeaway.
Oh, okay. Takeaway is just don't be so hard on myself, I think. And but it's so hard. I can't stop doing that.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to stop that either. Okay, good.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so neither of those are yeah, okay, good. Thank you so much. So now so here's a takeaway that I think may be more digestible for you, okay?
Okay.
So both of those are things that you should do.
Right.
But I say this with love, you're not capable yet. How does it feel to not be capable of what you should do?
It's a little unfortunate. I feel like it's like, kind of back to the failure feeling, like I can't even do that. But I can just see in myself that I can't stop doing those two things.
Yeah. So this is something that's really important to understand. When we're faced with failure, what we want to do is no longer be a failure. And what you've been taught your whole life, which parents and now analytics is teaching you the same thing, is that your value as a human being can be measured by a grade, by a concurrent viewer count, by all kinds of stuff. This is your value as a person.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah.
I'm 100% sure that you know that your value, there's a part of you that knows that your value as a person goes way beyond and is completely independent of any metric. I can see that, because if you didn't have that, you'd be different. The problem is that the moments that it's like one person's in the driver's seat, right? Either like there's like Emily who loves herself and Emily whose love is conditional. So what you probably need to do, I don't think you can be sad on stream yet. It's going to be way too terrifying. The failure part of you is too strong. Totally fine. So the first thing is that if you're a failure, that's okay. Most people deal with being a failure as I need to succeed. If you really want to conquer the feeling of failure, the problem is that if you succeed, you are just reinforcing the idea that failure and success determines your worth. So when I ask you, when you feel like you're a failure, what do? You say you fix it. That's what good little kids do. They fix it, right?
Right.
So what that sort of reinforces is, once again, this idea that your value is tied to a particular metric. So oddly enough, and I kind of teed you up, and hopefully you can hear this. If you can't, that's okay too. If you can't do what I'm asking of you, that's okay. Whatever you can do is okay. You don't have to do everything now. You're not going to peak by the age of 30. Trust me. You'll do great. Like, I have so much faith in you. And no matter what you do, I think that if you get fired, you're going to be fine. If you get canceled, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. So try to understand that as a failure, like, it's actually okay to fail. Second thing is that just pay attention to any moment of disintegration. Which is like, it's not about stream, it's not about failure or anything like that. It's just like, notice those moments in your life where you smile. And it's not that you have to change, it's just that you have to notice. And then ask yourself, okay, like, what else could I be feeling? The third thing is think about, so it didn't really work with the kid. Sometimes it works with the kid. You can write these down. I can DM them to you afterward.
Okay, thanks.
Oftentimes if I ask people about their kids, they're able to like sort of start crying and realize like, okay, like, I don't want to raise my kids the way that I was raised. It seems like the tiger parent is genetically, you're making adjustments, but we didn't quite get there the way that I was shooting for. But when I asked you about your externalizing yourself. Okay, looks like it. There's someone working outside. So I think I would encourage you to do that externalizing yourself exercise. So this is where think about, okay, like how would I think about this person? Like she's feeling this way. She's beating herself up. And I think you did something that's actually really important. So this is, you stumbled upon a very important realization. If you look at people who are burnt out, there's one cognitive thing that they do, which is they move their W's into the L column. So they do not celebrate their wins.
Yeah.
Okay? There's something else that's really interesting, and you may notice, we'll see if you do this or not. When things go well for you, what's responsible?
Not me.
And when things go well for other people, what's responsible?
Them.
When things go wrong for you, whose fault is it?
Mine.
When things don't go well for other people, whose fault is it?
Things they can't control.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Have you studied this before?
I have not, but that makes a lot of sense.
Oh my God. I literally could not have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Literally, I could not. I've never said it that well myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is also really important to understand. Can you hold on just 1 second? I'm going to see if we can get whoever is doing this work to... So if we talk about literally burnout, okay? A big part of that is like these cognitive things. It's hard to believe, but as you engage in these cognitive patterns, it changes the way that you like move through life. So if you can change these couple of things, first is that when you win, when you have a win, you're going to naturally think about all the reasons you got lucky. You don't have to dismiss those. We don't have to convince you that those, it's just, can you add, is there anything you can take credit for?
It was a good idea that I thought of.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it was a good idea, like, hey, like, I woke up today, I went through my morning routine, you know, I like picked a good restaurant. Like there's a lot of things that I did something to deserve this too. And you don't have to make a laundry list, just try to add one thing.
Yeah.
On the flip side, when you lose, all my fault. Is there anything, any kind of RNG? Because you play some games on stream, right? Yeah. So is there any kind of RNG here that is out of my control? So like literally go through that when you have a win and a loss. You could also apply it to other people if you want to in the reverse of like, okay, what did they do to like, you know, how did they get lucky if they win? How did how are they responsible if they screwed up? That's also, this is a conversation maybe for a different day or never, but when it comes to relationships, if you're a people pleaser, that's going to be really important, because if the fault is always yours and they never do anything wrong and you're a people pleaser, you can create a lot of unhealthy dynamics over time. So holding people accountable can be hard for people pleasers and is related to this thing. You see how it's like, because you treat yourself differently from other people.
Yeah.
So in terms of like concrete stuff, I would say just like change that a little bit and then just feel your emotions. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and just like, it sounds like you do. Actually, that's not right. So it sounds like you actually feel your emotions a lot and you let yourself feel your emotions a lot. You'll cry for 2 days and then you kind of pick yourself up. I'm not quite sure, but I'd say maybe just stick with that awareness of, can I see the flip side of this emotion? Or can I see the flip side of this scenario and acknowledge like what is the other side of this? Because it comes back down to this statement of, I've gotten used to it. You're not ready to say it sucked, because if you say it sucked, that means you're blaming your parents, and you were not allowed to do that because you're so grateful for them because they did genuinely give you lots of stuff, right?
Right.
You wouldn't be where you are without them. So how can you blame them?
Exactly.
That's textbook. Right? So, but as you go through this, you'll be able to hopefully one day say, there's a lot of stuff that I'm grateful for. There's a lot of stuff that they actually like did that hurt me a lot. My upbringing was actually like really sad in a lot of ways, and I missed out on being a child in a lot of ways. And I'm never going to get those years back. And I love them. They kind of did the best that they could. You don't have to blame them for acknowledging that something hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also, this is the other tricky thing, we're not going to get into this today, but the other problem is that unless you blame them, you can't forgive them. And that can cause a big problem. So this is something I've seen time and time again, where if you don't blame your parents and you can't forgive them, and then you're carrying around resentment and you suppress it and deny it and all this kind of other crap. But that's endgame content. Questions, thoughts?
So when you said like not really celebrating your W's but moving them to the L, is that like with burnout? Is that what you said? Or
So it happens in burnout and imposter syndrome.
Okay, got it.
We haven't talked about imposter syndrome with you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. So, okay. So the noticing like, oh, what I was responsible for the W can kind of help with the whole burnout thing and just being more aware of my successes.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely, right? So you're playing a game where you're cute, like you just don't get to win, and so like literally you're gonna burn out. And then I think the other thing that happens is that when you don't celebrate your W's, so when you have a win, you double down and you work harder.
Yeah.
Whether you have a lose, you double down, you work harder. No matter what happens, you're working harder, you're working harder, you're working harder. And then what we tend to see is that that's very adaptive for streamers, but very few of them can sustain that. So some can. And the most successful ones manage to find their own equilibrium. They kind of discover it. But what we found is we worked with about 400 content creators at this point, and what we found is that their lives get better and their actual performance improves. So like their concurrent view counts, things like that, like their, even if streaming hours go down, their performance goes up.
That's great.
I will send you the report once it's finalized.
Yeah, that'd be a great read. Thank you.
Other questions?
That's it for me. Just thank you again for
You're very
the talk.
welcome.
It was really eye-opening for sure. So
Good.
I had
I'm
a great
glad.
time.
You want one final test because you're being such a good student today?
Oh yes, sounds great.
What do you think I could have done better?
Let's see. I like the flow of the conversation. So, like the open-endedness is really nice. Like being able to just follow whatever. I think something that could improve the experience. Wait, are you sending like a summary of it at the end?
Like, am I going to DM you a summary of what we talked about?
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on it.
Then that's how you can improve.
Okay,
That'll
sure.
be the improvement method. Yes. Because I thought this was a really great talk. I'll definitely be rewatching the VOD for sure.
Give it a week, okay? Don't watch it for a week.
Okay, give it a week.
Get out of your own head first.
Okay, that sounds good. So that'll be my improvement little tidbit.
I'm very proud and impressed because I was terrified that you were going to say, "Oh no, you can't do anything better," and it was great, and thank you so much, and all this kind of stuff. But
I came up with something.
yeah, you did,
I was like,
and it sounds like it would be good. So I'll share some thoughts, and we'll try to summarize.
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Any other thoughts, questions? I feel like we're at a good stopping point.
Yeah, I think this is perfect. No, thank you again. It's been a great time being a guest here. So
Yeah,
I
thank
learned
you
a
so
lot.
much for coming on and sharing everything that you have to share.
Of course, it was great. So have a
You
great
are-
rest of your day.
You too. Do you want to just tell us one last time where we can find you and what kind of content you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I stream on twitch.tv/ExtraEmily, and I do IRL challenges. So I like to go out in public a lot and make a fool out of myself and do a bunch of different things. So I did urban kayaking. I made like a huge slip and slide and stuff like that. So if you like challenges like that, I'm your girl. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Why extra?
It's because I like alliteration and I'm like super extra and like energetic and whatever. So I thought it was fitting.
Yeah, I think it's very fitting. You were
Great.
you were extra for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Well, take care, Emily. Best of luck
Thank
to you. I will
Thank
DM you
you.
a summary per your
Oh, perfect.
and yeah, really, I hope things work out for you. Really, dude, you're gonna be fine.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, so
Thank you so much
take
for
care.
having me.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. All right, that was a roller coaster chat. That really did require a fair amount of five heading on my part. Like I've never had to move that many. I've never had to calculate that many moves ahead. But I mean, it's great. She's awesome, first of all. And I think some of the things that we don't realize are that the stuff that makes us miserable is the stuff that makes us successful. So if we look at even things like the human brain is geared for survival, not contentment or happiness. If we look at what it takes to succeed, that's what it takes to succeed, not what it takes to be happy. Completely independent stuff. And the biggest mistake that we tend to make is that we think that enjoyment is happiness. So we turn to dopaminergic things, eating good food, driving nice cars, having a nice place, playing video games, like whatever. And this is what we've seen with about 400 content creators now. You'll see this pattern where it's like they're so good at flagellating themselves towards success. They will sacrifice everything. And at the top of the list is their mental well-being. That's the first thing to go, and it's the thing that they will trade out as much as possible. I'm willing to sacrifice my internal well-being for external accomplishment. The real tragedy is that works only up until a point. So if you want to put your life together, there's this weird kind of like U-shaped curve of at the beginning, you need to learn things like stoicism and deprivation. I need to conquer my desires. I need to overcome my mental stuff. So if you're feeling a particular way, you need to be able to act in the opposite of that. You need to act in spite of your feelings. And then what happens is you become successful. But that will only buy you so much success. So you're sacrificing the internal for the sake of the external. That's how you get out of the pit. The problem is that sacrificing the internal for the external is how we end up with burnout and midlife crises. Or nowadays, early life crises. Because you've made so much sacrifice and you have this stuff, you have these accomplishments, but they feel empty. You're proud of them on some level, and other people look at you and they're like, wow, look at that person is amazing. But you don't feel amazing. You keep on moving the goalposts. And you need to be more successful and more successful and more successful because you don't feel content. And then you fall into a different trap, which is that you're using external accomplishment to try to satisfy an internal lack of contentment. So it could be an insecurity. You could be trying to prove yourself, but how much proof do you need? And so at the end, what you actually have to do is let go of that. Let go of the relentless pursuit for success and accomplishment. And this is where integration comes in. Then what you have to do is a balance between your internal desires and your external desires. And for me, this was sort of like, I'm honestly not, let me unflex for a second. So I was about to say one thing, but so when I decided to leave a primarily clinical job, that's what I had to do. I had to decide, okay, like if I stayed in this job at this particular institution, I will be a somebody. There's a path laid out by my mentors for more and more success. I will be the world's expert in a particular thing. But who am I doing that for? Why do I need to be successful? What does that mean to me? And this is what we tend to see is we see people who will strive for success to like fill stuff in here, right? I want to be in shape so that people will lust after me. That's honestly what it is. Or can be. Right? Or do I want to be in shape because I don't like the way that my body feels? I don't like the way that I feel when I sit in a fucking chair. I felt this way for 12 hours a day playing video games. And when I get up, I'm 21 years old and I feel like an old man. I don't like the way that I think about myself when I'm done taking a shower and I see myself in the mirror. There's a big difference between winning the respect of other people and winning the respect of yourself. And the problem is that if you want to go the full distance, doing it for others won't get you there. Just won't. Because people change. You move away from people. The one person you're always in touch with is yourself. And so if you have any kind of goal, really think about what's in here and what you need in here and align things towards that. Now, keep in mind, this is at the end, right? So at the beginning, you've got to, and this is the hard thing that no one teaches you, is that if you're got nothing in life, ignoring yourself is oftentimes the first step. Sacrificing what the internal needs are is oftentimes the first step. And then you have to do the exact opposite at the opposite end. And if y'all really want to be successful and content, it's absolutely possible. There's like a formula for it. And this is what's wild. Like we've got this, we'll release some data pretty soon that's also in a collaboration with an analytics company, but that this works. We've now tested it in 400 content creators, and helping content creators integrate with themselves, which is exactly what we do in coaching as well. Is you have to learn this integration. And this is kind of our mission here at HG, is that like the problem is that, you know, people like Emily are going through life very successful, but they don't know the rules of the game. They're just the rules that they were taught. And the rules that they were taught is good to get you into Columbia and graduate magna cum laude, but it's also going to burn you out. And so a lot of people will say, I would kill for that. And so I would say, I mean, don't kill for it, but absolutely sacrifice yourself and learn how to be successful. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we've got people like Charlie. Right? It's interesting because Charlie's in his 30s, if y'all caught that interview. And Charlie started a successful YouTube channel, was a super alpha, super Chad, did lots of things, traveled the world, became very socially adept, became an entrepreneur. And then he has to like discover things around balance and stuff like that towards the end. So sacrifice yourself at the beginning. Not Moist, the guy who does Charisma on Command. But I'm sure he's super alpha too. And then you have to learn, you have to sacrifice yourself, and then you have to learn how to listen to yourself. Questions? You know what we should do? We should read it. Charlie should be the new Chad. What do y'all think? Can we make Charlie the new Chad? So I think it's the essence of Charlie that both Moist and Charisma on Command embody. Okay. So, what else are we doing? Okay, so questions. No, don't talk, Dr. K. Quiet. Can you skip the sacrifice part? Probably. But I think skipping the sacrifice part is harder. Way harder. Sacrificing is actually way easier than skipping that part. Yeah, we can, let me see if I can, let me think about a meditation to do. I see a couple people are requesting it, so let me just see. I'm still a little bit sick, but I'll pull something together. What do you sacrifice? Most of what you have to sacrifice is like your internal desires, right? It, like, if you think about it, if you're stuck in life, you're probably giving in to yourself. And then when I say giving in to yourself, like a lot of people will say, okay, but I'm in a circumstance that is keeping me down, which is absolutely correct. And that's why it's so hard. If it was easy to conquer, everyone would do it. But if you really look at it, even if you're in sort of like a toxic environment, that toxicity affects you in a particular way. And so the first battle that you kind of have to fight is internally. And for the people who have escaped toxic situations, it usually involves conquering something internally first. So when to stop sacrificing, that's very good. So if you have accomplished nothing and are not content, then you need to learn sacrifice. If you have accomplished a lot but are still not content, then you need to stop sacrificing. Sacrifice is what leads to success. And oftentimes we have to do something ourselves to learn the lesson. Don't eat it. It's spicy. Oh my God, it's spicy. Right? That's just how human beings are. And like the tragedy of this is that we can't transmit knowledge to each other. It's like every friggin' human being on the planet has to learn these same damn lessons like over and over and over again. And if y'all want to summarize, or if I were to summarize what is my life's work, it's to make the process of learning what everyone needs to learn as painless as possible. You got to learn it and it's got to be painful, but we're going to try to make it so that your landing is as smooth as possible. That you have to trip the fewest times. So being in is asking, I don't know what to sacrifice. So if you're stuck in life, probably what you need to sacrifice are internal impulses and the satisfaction of desires. See, here's the problem, is that we all want our cake and we want to eat it too. So what we want to do is like, we want to watch a Twitch stream or a YouTube video or a TikTok or whatever to like become motivated. Right? We're like, yeah, I'm not actually willing to do the hard work for motivation. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch a clip of a guy who's got like cool music playing in the background and who's ripped and uses a bunch of steroids. And like, you know, like I'm going to watch this and then that dude will motivate me. And by the way, 30-minute videos of that dude are too much. So instead I need like a 45-second TikTok because... So we're sitting there and we're like, motivate me, bruh. Come on, bruh. Motivate me. And we're looking for motivation. No such thing as motivation. There's no Sanskrit word for motivation. It's an amalgamation of concepts. You don't need to be motivated because you can't control whether you're motivated or not. What you can control is whether you are willing to sacrifice. Because the only person who controls sacrifice is you. What are you willing to give up? So when you wake up in the morning, what are you willing to give up? Are you willing to even fucking give up sleep so that you can wake up in the morning? If the answer to the question is I'm not willing to, it's easy. How do I wake up in the morning? You are willing to sacrifice sleep. That's how you wake up in the morning. What are you willing to sacrifice? People say things are hard, or I'll hear this a lot, where it's like, how do I know it's going to work? What does that thinking come from? That thinking is born from an inability to sacrifice. Because I don't want to give something up. I'm not willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to make a trade. I'll make a trade, absolutely. But I'm not willing to lose something. If I gain more, if it's a beneficial trade, and if you're looking for beneficial trades in life, you're going to stay stuck. Or it's out of your control, right? Because like, here's the problem, is that if you're looking for beneficial trades in life, what that requires is that someone has to make a bad trade on the other side of the table. So that means that fundamentally you are not in control. Whether you act or don't act depends on what the other person is offering. So the ability to make sacrifices and the ability to control your life go hand in hand. So what do you sacrifice? That's up to you. People will say, I'm socially anxious. So are you willing to sacrifice your mental well-being for an hour and go to a party and stay off your phone? Are you willing to tolerate it? But how do I know that will help? Do you need assurances? And the beautiful thing is when you sacrifice, when you give things up, you become stronger. Like that is the birth of willpower, is the ability to sacrifice. And then suddenly like things will become easier because you're working with you instead of working against you. Like think about your life and think about like, what's all the crap that's holding you back? It's like you that like, I have trouble getting up in the morning. What does that mean? Like, what is your actual experience? Is it like gravity is like 10 times stronger for you than any other human being? And in the cases of things like neurovegetative depression, the answer is actually yes. There are some cases where your life is objectively more difficult. But that's like at best 30% of the population. And even then, there is an evidence-based treatment called behavioral activation that shows that if you can get someone who has a depressive episode to act, it reduces their depression. So whether you get out of bed alters the force of gravity. And this is the key thing that people don't understand. If you want to take control of your life, you can alter the law. You can alter the world that you live in by altering yourself. Literally. So what should you sacrifice? Whatever. Whatever goal you have, any goal that you have, if it was easy, you would do it. And if you think it's easy and you're not doing it, it's not easy. So this is the sequence. Think of a goal you have. Think about what makes it hard. And this is where you've got to be very careful about devaluing what makes it hard, because you got to be legit. What makes it hard is that on a given day, I would rather stay in bed than wake up. I would rather do this. Do y'all get that? Like, no one procrastinates on procrastination is not done in a vacuum. You would rather do one thing than do something else. Everything that you do in life is a series of rathers, but we think about things in a vacuum, right? I'm not going to do it today. It's a choice. There's always a choice and there's always a price. Oftentimes we don't think about, if I take a day off, from a project that I'm working on. That delays when that project is completed. So if I'm writing a book, it'll take me, let's say, 200 days to write a book. If I take a day off, it'll take me 201. If I take a week off, it'll take me 207. The amount of work doesn't change. I'm just pushing back when I meet my goal. When do you want to meet your goal? Do you want to meet it 10 years from now? Then by all means, take 9 years off. And the beautiful thing is once you start to sacrifice, you realize that you're in control. This crap doesn't have to hold you back anymore. What you do or not do depends on you. And holy shit. When what you do or don't do depends on you, that's what we call freedom. That's what we call power. But we don't think about it that way. All we think about is the cost of the hurt of sacrifice. The final raid boss is ourselves. Bruh, this is a game of Dark Souls, where the first boss is by far the hardest. It's like Elden Ring and whoever that Margot. Or Ludex Gundyr in Dark Souls 3. You guys are confused. The final boss is not yourself. It's the first boss that's yourself. And let's be honest. The final boss is never the hardest boss. The first boss is you. And the first boss is always the hardest because you don't know how to play the game. But once you understand the mechanics, if you're playing Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring, and once you realize that the way to win this encounter is for them to be more afraid of me than I am of them. Literally, that's what happened in my head. I was like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass. And that's what I did. And the first 10 times that I went in, I'm like, oh my God, don't kill me, bro. His axe or pole or whatever fucking polearm Ludex Gundyr has hurts so hard. It takes off like a third of your health bar or half of your health bar or 2/3 of your health bar. And so what do? You run away from it. But you can stagger him with a club. You can win that encounter with a club, and actually a club is really good. You just got to club it. And that's life. We think that we're like paralyzed in relation to this stuff. But you can sacrifice as much as you want to. It's yours to give away. No one else can do it for you, and no one else is entitled to it. Does that make sense? It's like yours to give up. Your happiness is yours to give up. Your sloth is yours to give up. Your desires are yours to give up. It's yours to give up. If you're willing to give it up, life will be easy. You'll be in freedom. You'll be in control. Because if I can give up carbs, then my diet will improve. My physical health will improve. All kinds of things will be there for me if I'm willing to give it up. So if you guys want a meditation, I'm going to teach y'all a meditation. Different kind of meditation. It's a meditation to give up carbs. So a lot of people are talking about, how carbs are unhealthy, and carbs aren't evil, don't get me wrong. Processed carbs are almost certainly bad for you. And a lot of people struggle with this. And I'll tell you why they struggle. Because when they eat carbs, they're not thinking. So this is what I want y'all to do. I want y'all to take, let's say, like a healthy plate of food. Let's say, like, you make yourself like a salad with some protein. Or, in my case recently, this was tabbouleh and baba ganoush. Okay? And some falafel. And then I had some pita. And if you're paying attention, you sit down, you look at the plate of food, and then you decide, I'm not going to eat that bread. Salad comes with bread. There's always bread. Bread is everywhere. Or rice. I'm not going to eat that thing. I'm just not going to eat it. And if your attention is fully on the food and you think about every single bite you take, now I'm going to take a bite of this, now I'm going to take a bite of this, and now I don't even say, don't even move the bread away. Leave it within arm's distance. And just, I'm not going to eat it for this meal. Not going to do it. Done. This only works if that is the only thing you are doing. It doesn't work if you're watching something, if you're listening to something. Even if you're talking to people, it could be hard. And when do we eat the most carbs? When we're mindlessly doing something. And then as you eat your food, you will notice something. It won't taste quite right. Maybe it'll be too spicy. Maybe it'll be too salty. Because it's designed to be eaten with bread. And so the food will be less enjoyable. So what? So what? It is less enjoyable. What are you going to do about it? Absolutely nothing. You're going to eat what you decided to eat. That's it. And it will be less enjoyable. And then your total amount of possible happiness in life will decrease. That's what your mind will tell you. I don't like it. That's when you go mode Charlie, and when you're done with your meal, you're going to feel good about yourself. Because you set your mind something and you fucking did it. No one's going to celebrate it. No one's going to applaud you. No one's going to give you a gold star. No one's even going to notice. Because all of those things, the gold stars and the accomplishments and shit like that, that feeds the ego. Then you become beholden to the ego. If that's where you derive your pride from, then if they lose their value in you, if they lose their respect in you, you will have to modify your behavior for their sake. And you will have lost control of life. Simple. This is your meditation for the day. Take one thing. I'm just tossing out carbs. My top of mind struggle today. And sacrifice it with a meal. And then you got to be careful about the mind, because the mind will come up with all kinds of bullshit. Like, okay, if you're going to do it once, then like once isn't going to do anything. Like, are you going to give it up forever? I can't give it up forever. Blah, 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 blah. That's just the mind going. And what is it trying to do in that moment? It's trying to get you to eat the carbs. It's like, bruh, I like this stuff. Why are you trying to take it away from me? Bruh. Come on, bruh. Just eat it. What are you punishing me for if you're not going to get anything out of it? You got to get something out of it. Right? I mean, people talk about meditation as these formal practices. And people talk about meditation like, oh, like anything can be a meditation. It's like, yeah, we can do like meditation on the water, meditation on a flower, meditation on, oh my God, like some scents. Oh. No, like meditation can be anything is not good. It's fucking brutal. All things can be meditation. Like, and that's not good. It's like you can wrestle with your mind. It is like, I'm trying to think about, you know, like what's a good analogy of something that's like locked in eternal combat where like you just respawn. Like life is like a game where you spawn into a deathmatch arena with your mind. And if you win, it respawns. And if you lose, you respawn. And you can keep on getting owned like over and over and over and over again, but you'll keep respawning and your mind will keep owning you. And this is the real tragedy, is like, even if you win, it'll respawn. And then you can get good at owning it and it'll keep coming back. And so even after you master the mind and you have it on lock, it doesn't stop. That's what life is like. A constant struggle with your mind. And so we try so hard to get out of the game. We try to quit out of the game. You can't quit out of the game. All you can do is win over and over and over again, or lose over and over again, and it's never enough. So if you can't quit, do you want to be winning or do you want to be losing? Isn't it always tiring to fight your mind? Only if you suck at the game. It's not always tiring. It's always tiring to get owned. It can sometimes be tiring to own someone else. But if I am schooling noobs, like, I can do that shit all day. And the thing is, like, when you like practice yoga and meditation and you master your mind, life becomes owning shit all day. It's like, hey, I got to do this thing. All right, I'm going to do it. This person is mistreating me. Like, that dude's an asshole. I got to work here for 3 more months, but I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm going to walk out of the hospital, speaking from personal experience here, and I'm going to leave that guy and his mess over there. Whew. He gets to ruin my life for 14 hours a day. I'm not giving him the other 10. I'm going to have a good time. It's great, y'all. Fantastic. Highly recommend. Yeah, so when y'all are saying, I'm not even giving him 14, little bro. So that's the thing. I gave him 14. I'm not going to drop out of medical school. I'm not going to let him take that away from me. He can dislike me if he wants to. He can be an attending surgeon if he wants to. He's an ass. He's an ass. I'm going to give him 14. I'm going to absolutely give him 14. I'm going to knock it out of the park. I'm not going to let him take it away from me. You have to be in control of the sacrifice. Y'all get that? That's what it means to sacrifice. You're like, I'm not going to give this guy. No, you absolutely, but I'm going to be the one that gives it. I decide that this is what I want, and I have to tolerate this fucker for some amount of time. I will do so. And now, like, I'm Gucci, baby. Finished med school, went to residency. Now, nothing. I love surgeons. So many friends who are surgeons, amazing surgeons. This guy is in the OR right now. Is my guess. Or he's bitching about doing something pre-op or post-op because he doesn't like interacting with patients. It's 2:18 on a Wednesday, and I'm hanging out on Twitch. So it's okay. He can have those 14 hours a day for 3 months. Have them, bro. You'll get that? Learn to sacrifice. The life that you build will be worth it. I guarantee you. I don't use that word on stream, but this is the one thing that I feel is a guarantee. The only thing maybe that I'll ever say that I think is a guarantee. Learn to sacrifice. Don't run away from it. Oh my God. But it should be in your control. What to sacrifice? Whatever you need to. Right? Decide. So this is what we were talking about earlier. Y'all, maybe I didn't answer the question right, but people are asking, what do I sacrifice? And that's just like, think about any moment of your day. What's important to you and what keeps you from moving in that direction? You know, it depends on what your goals are. And then people will say, well, I don't know what my goals are. So then how do you end up spending your days? Well, I have nothing to move towards, so I might as well fill up my days by binge watching TV shows, playing video games, whatever. Like I'm in some haze of whatever. And so what you're not willing to sacrifice is the absolute boredom that's required to figure out what the fuck you want to do with your life. I guarantee, no, I can't guarantee this, but if you spend 8 hours a day doing absolutely nothing and staring at a blank wall, you will figure out what you want in life. Because you're going to do that until you figure it out. First couple days, it'll be painful. Then you're going to show up with a notebook because you got to do something. And then you're going to start writing things down. And then you're going to start talking to people. Because you got to do something. This is intolerable. But the second that you are no longer willing to suffer to figure out what you want, and you're willing to endlessly fill your days with trash, no wonder you don't know what you want, because you live in a society where they tell you what you want. Hell, if y'all are watching this right now, chances are there's been an ad somewhere in here. And that's someone telling you what you want. Don't you want this thing? Beta, take this thing. It will make you happy. Oh, that one doesn't work? Don't worry. We have a new one, a 2.0. 2.0 will give you twice happiness. That's not good enough. We'll release 2.1. We'll do 3.0. This one is, we have had 1.0 is shitty and 2.0 is shitty. We'll now do a rebrand. We'll acquire someone else. We'll do something else. We'll acquire this IP that is built with love, and we'll fill it full of microtransactions. That's what we're going to do. And trust me, you will like it. And even if you don't like it, you will have the microtransaction, you will have the trophy achievement, you will have all of it. So you will think you will like it. You don't know what you want to do? Very good. Don't worry, I have you covered, beta. Please don't ever figure out what you want to do. No. That's so silly. That's going to take so much time. And instead, what you need to do is buy this thing. Get it? Makes sense? I don't know what the fuck I just said. But does it make sense? Oh, beautiful. Double Z 3D. Only $9.99. It's not going to be $10. We are going to do you a favor and save you 1 penny. Shipping and handling charges, fee surcharge, convenience surcharge, it'll end up being about $16. But $9.99. See, I'm so kind. I'm giving you 1 cent off. It's not 4-digit expense. It is 3-digit expense. And 2 of them are in the cents column, no? So it's not that much money. It will make you happy. Oh, you did not get the item you wanted from the loot box that I told you would make you happy? That's okay. You can actually buy another. See, the cool thing about the loot box is it's not a real box. It's virtual. So you can buy as many as you want. Someone else can buy 1,000 and someone else can buy 10,000. And it's just code in the virtual world. So you just give me your money and I'll give you as much of the virtual item as you want. See how much I love you? See how much I am taking care of you? There's not real scarcity. It is artificial scarcity, So I could make it so the loot box will give you the item that you want, but it is 1 out of 10,000 chance. Nah. Then it's not fun. Trust me. You will like it so much more when you finally get it out of 1 out of 10,000 and you've spent $99,000, 999 cents. Once you have sent it all, that'll make it worth it. I'm looking out for you, na? Right? See, because you don't know what you want from life, right? And you are feeling sad about yourself. So don't worry. If you spend the money, you will get it as 1 out of 10,000. Don't worry, I won't give it to everybody. Then you can log on and everyone will see, Arre va? Arre, look at this boy. He is so good. He has this item. It means he is a more valuable human being. Right? And I will also code in a third-person view. And I will create a mirror and all of these kinds of views that you can see your character. Because most of the time you can't even see your character. So what's the value? I'm going to code this kind of thing. Instead of making a good matchmaking system that has some sort of logic and dealing with cheaters and scammers and hackers and griefers, instead I'm going to spend my development budget so you can see how pretty you are. Isn't that better? So you can see all of this effort that you have put in. And the game will be shit, but don't worry, you will be pretty when you are playing it. Isn't that right? The horse AI may suck, but we're adding horse armor to the game. Horse cosmetics, mount cosmetics. Let's go. No, people are like, I'm eviscerating this game and I'm eviscerating this game. Honestly, I'm not crapping on any game. Seriously. It's the whole fucking industry, man. And there's great games out there. Like, I love playing video games. Like, I'm probably playing video games today. I got a Steam Deck and No Man's Sky, so that's lit. Maybe we'll play some Dota later. Who knows? Right? So, we didn't even get into this. Don't worry. You don't like the way that you look when you see yourself in the mirror after taking shower. I can make you beautiful with a click of a button. You can have a virtual avatar. And then you will be beautiful. And you can spend more and more time making your virtual character prettier and prettier. And then one day I will learn to integrate some kind of thing where you are playing a video game and I will send you prescription pain medication over the internet. One day a developer will figure it out. No? We will learn all of the things that we need to do to keep you to the seat. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. Don't worry. All of your needs will be taken care of. It's going to be good. You will see. Are you imitating the Indian scammers that call people to screw them out of their money? The scammers that I'm imitating don't use phones, my friends. They have billion-dollar budgets. The only reason I'm using the Indian accent is hopefully it's the one that I won't get canceled for using. And secondly, it's just the one that feels right to me. It's of my people. Yeah, dude, we've done a couple of things with Kit Boga, dude. The dude is lit. Charlie number 3, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So there was a meditation somewhere in there. I don't know what we just did, but that's what we did. Who are we rating today? Speaking of sacrifices, I have to stop this now and do some other work. Not that this isn't work. This is the best part of my day, but there's other parts of my day that I have to get on to. Are there any Charlies? Is Arteezy actually streaming? Holy Jesus. Arteezy is streaming? What? Okay, we're rating our tour. Because we got to, if there's yearly Arteezy stream. And then we'll, yeah. So stay tuned to our stuff, chat. We've got Mental Health May stuff coming out all the rest of the month. It's been awesome so far. If you guys have not seen what we've done, I think we've done some of our finest work. So check out the trauma stream that we did last week on Twitch. I understand it was very awesome for a lot of people, which is what we designed it to do. We did some stuff over on YouTube with addictions and things like that. We've got YouTube videos coming out, and there may be a open beta kind of opening up a little bit more for one of our new products. So stay tuned to that stuff. Love y'all. I saw some questions about anxiety and stuff. Just a reminder, if you guys have questions about like more traditional mental health stuff, depression, anxiety, meditation, ADHD, y'all can absolutely, you should go get professionally evaluated. But if you've already done that and you're looking to learn more about it, check out Dr. K's guide. So take care, everybody.